Hey, what's going on, people? It's SGZ here from the SpartanGameZone, and in this video I'll be showing you who you need to farm in order to get the Electric Banjo Artifact in Borderlands 3. And I'll also give you tips on how you can get it faster and what it does. If you enjoyed the video or it helped you get the artifact quicker, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like, and if you have a suggestion for which weapon or item you want me to cover next, let me know in the comments, and let's jump to it. The Electric Banjo can only be dropped by the Psycho Billies, who you can find in the Amber Mire around this area under the waterfall. To get here the quickest, you want to travel to Rogue's Hollow. From here, just head outside towards the river's edge, but before you jump off, you want to grab this save point, which will make future farming runs shorter. When you're farming the Psycho Billies for a banjo, you'll get one quicker by turning your mayhem levels down. Turning them up has no effect on dedicated drop rates like the banjo, so why not turn them down or even off? You'll kill the billies faster, which means more drops in a smaller amount of time, so that's the way I'd run it if you're farming for relics, as they can't come anointed, so there's really no reason to run Mayhem 4, so unless you're in it for the challenge. I received the banjo, believe it or not, on my first kill during the Farming Frenzy event, and I also managed to get a Devil's Foursome in that attempt as well, which is another of their dedicated drops. During the event I also received a Chaos and a World drop, netting myself 4 legendaries out of the 7 kills, which is high, but outside of the event, which is probably over by the time this goes up, I didn't receive a single banjo in over 50 kills, so yeah. It really depends. I also want to point out that although there is 5 billies, generally the billy ending in Y has the greatest chance to drop legendaries. Now this used to be all the time for me, but as you saw before, I received a Devil's Foursome from another billy, so you should kill them all. Not that it takes that much longer anyway, especially when you're farming on the lower mayhem levels. So what about the banjo? What does it do? If vampires don't have a reflection, how can they do their makeup? Well, the banjo is a little unique as it can't come with a prefix like Snowdrift or Last Stand, which is a little disappointing and means it'll be forever known as just the Electric Banjo. It is one of those artifacts where you don't really know what it does for sure when you're looking at the card, so I'll be going over some results from a little testing I did. The first test involves the shock resistance, as you can see here, which should reduce the amount of shock damage you take from all forms, but when I tested it using electric water with and without the relic equipped, I was dealt the same 700 odd damage, so either it does nothing, which I hesitate to say, or it only resists shock damage that's fired from enemies. I can't say for sure. Moving on to how it works in combat, and here I am on Mayhem 4 with an Electric Chaos. Other than granting you 29% shock resistance, the Electric Banjo also boosts your shock damage by 16%, which is pretty good, but probably a little bit less than you'd get on a mod, for instance. I wanted to use the Chaos here mainly because it's not an overly powerful weapon, and you get to see the damage numbers more of the relic itself, and you'll see me looking at enemies who have been damaged by the Electric Banjo to see the damage it's dealing. I have to say though, the damage numbers I saw weren't high, but having researched the relic thanks to Thick Filler, who has a good video out on the subject if you wanted to check it out, damage numbers look to sit at a little under 20% of the bullet's damage that proc the effect. Speaking of procking, the bullet proc chance on the card is the chance each bullet has of producing an electric link between enemies. So, because it sits at 20%, each bullet has a 1 in 5 chance to cause that to happen. This makes it a little better on Zane because if you pair that with a Seeing Dead class mod, you'll be shooting a lot faster and therefore proc this effect more often. It does seem though, as we move on to some Maggie gameplay, that the proc chance is activated per pellet, so something like the Maggie, which fires 6 pellets at a time, will cause electric links to happen more often, as you can see from the gameplay. However, because the proc chance is fired per pellet, the damage is also calculated per pellet, so there's a little balancing act going on there. It's still good with multiple pellet weapons because of the increased chance of a chain, but the damage isn't as high as you'd expect, although it would be better than any generic fully automatic weapon, as damage will be roughly the same, but you will proc it more often. So if you're playing outside of Zane without fully automatic weapons, the more pellets, the better. There is one gun though that takes the electric banjo to a whole new level and turns its rather mediocre damage into something much more. That weapon is the Redistributor, and that's because of its effect which chains amp bullets to nearby enemies. Every 7th shot is amped, or if you play as Zane and have your barrier up, every shot will chain, and I have a video up on that if you want to know more. But the key here is that the bullets that chain count as their own bullets, which each have a 20% chance to create an electric link. And when you have multiple bullets chaining, you can have a lot of electricity floating about, stripping shields and dealing a ton of damage, as you can see from this gameplay. Due to each shot being treated separately, you will even notice multiple electrical beams going between the same two enemies, and it practically combines the Redistributor with the Brainstormer, which is pretty insane. It makes it a great relic in this combination if you're playing as Zane. Outside of Zane, it'll still do well with a Redistributor, and even without a Redistributor you'll find it decent with multiple pellet weapons, or even on an elemental Amara. So that's all for this video. Let me know down in the comments if you have an idea of what weapon or item you want me to showcase next. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider dropping a like or subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.